Mr. Deputy Speaker, one of the joys of being called so late in the debate is to be able to hear the arguments across both sides, and I have found it genuinely informative. I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions, but especially those who made maiden speeches today. As a newbie myself, I can only tell you it does get easier. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have a very special person in the room with us today. Indeed, so special that she and her campaign has been mentioned at several points in various parts of the debate. And she is a constituent of mine called Anne-Marie Coburn. She is a mother of a child whose name may also be familiar because she too has been mentioned today. But the story is so poignant and so relevant to everything that we're talking about that I do hope the House may indulge me to tell it again more fully, so they can see why so many have included it in their speeches today, albeit in passing. And that is the story of Martha Fernbach. Martha. Martha died 4 years ago this week, on the 20th of July 2013, from an accidental drug overdose. She was 15. That fateful day, she was out with her friends on a Saturday morning to go to a kayaking club. She was too young for the other sort. And she took, because it was that readily available, 0.5 gram of ecstasy powder and almost immediately started reacting. At first, her friends didn't know what to do. They were worried that they would get into trouble, and so they hesitated in ringing the ambulance when it was clear that Martha was struggling. But they did. And then Anne-Marie got the call that every parent dreads. An unrecognised number on her mobile phone screen, calling her to go to the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. And just 2 hours after first taking the drug, Martha, her beautiful baby girl, died. What is most extraordinary about this story is that the drug was 91% pure, way above the national average at that time. Martha thought she was being safe, and she tried to protect herself. In fact, after her death, Anne-Marie looked at her online history. Martha knew she wanted to experiment, and she knew that there were risks, so she did her research. And she had some of the information, which was beware of impurities. But that wasn't the whole story, as the information wasn't out there about safe dosage, and besides, she had no idea what she was taking. In a sense, the drug was almost too pure, and so she accidentally took too much. Anne-Marie was a wonderful mother. In fact, Martha was her only child, her world, and they were close. In fact, Martha confided to her mum that she wanted to experiment. And as a teacher, I can tell you that is very, very rare. And Anne-Marie did exactly what we all tell parents to do. She told Martha to just say no. But in hindsight, Anne-Marie is clear. And she argues as part of the Anyone's Child campaign that had Martha taken a legally regulated with a labelled dosage and made with clear safety information, that she could have made a fully informed choice, not a partially informed choice, a fully informed choice. And who knows, she may even have decided not to do it. Martha wanted to get high. She didn't want to die. And perhaps if she had had all the information, she could have done for herself what her mother could not, and still be with us today. The story is heartbreaking, and I'm sure that's why so many had made reference to it today. But it makes an important point, because ecstasy is already banned, and yet these stories still happen. The blanket ban approach is just doing more of the same. It fixes nothing of the core issues and is the wrong approach. Rather than banning and punishing, we should be regulating and educating. Taking drugs should be a public health issue, not a criminal offence, and I'm so happy to hear so many people make that point in the House today. Stories like Martha's happen because we refuse to accept that teenagers will always want to take risks, and we talk about sending a clear message. How do we best get a teenager to do something? Tell them not to do it. I'm a teacher and I've counted more than 1,000 teenagers now. Believe me, if I could wrap every single one in a protective blanket and shield them from the harm of this world, I would. But if they won't do as you say, and they frequently don't, at least let them be safe in what they do. Martha's story is terrifying. It is natural to want to clamp down and stop it from happening to anyone at all ever, and I have immense sympathy for those who believe that this is the right approach. To hear the Home Secretary say that she wants a drug-free world is laudable, but I'm afraid I believe it's naive about the world that we live in, and it fundamentally fails to understand how teenagers really think and behave. One of the reasons the Liberal Democrats argue for decriminalising drugs for personal use is that we want to encourage a proper debate. We want to encourage users to seek help. Our priority should not be to punish people caught with drugs. Maybe her friends would have called the ambulance earlier had they not felt that that was a problem. It should be to increase access for treatment for anyone who is suffering from drug dependency. It is time for us to recognise that our old approaches haven't worked and to stop repeating the same mistakes of the so-called war on drugs time and time again. We need a more constructive and evidence-based approach, one that focuses on education and, when it is needed, on rehabilitation and treatment. One that will finally take meaningful steps to reduce the harms that drugs have done to far too many families across the country. So I urge the government, let us be brave and open up this debate. We need to wake up and face the facts. Prohibition does not work. It makes a natural instinct a taboo. It puts up barriers between children and their parents, and it drives the problems underground and into the hands of drug dealers and gangs who, frankly, could not care less about children like Martha, their customers. I urge the government to think again. This is the wrong approach. It didn't help Martha then, and it won't help others like her now or in the future.
Ruth George.